Hello! Okay, Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtles Mutant Mayhem. When it comes to these characters, this world, when I was a kid, I absolutely loved the animated TV show. I loved those, the original live adaptations from the early 90s. I think the first movie was 1990. And I grew up watching these characters, whether it be the live, the animation or the films. But I was never really a die-hard fan. And I kind of just grew out of them. And the last time I watched Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtles was the third movie. Which I remember kind of liking and enjoying. But yeah, so it's been a long time since I've actually watched these characters. But the trailers, I liked the look of the trailers. I liked the look and the style of the animation. And you got Seth Rogen attached with co-writing along with a couple of other writers. So I was looking forward to this. I completely lied. The last time I actually watched these characters was with the 2014 and 2016 films. And I just completely forgot about those two. So, that kind of says a lot, I suppose, about those two films. But yeah. So, I thought the animation in this movie, the animation style, it was just beautiful. I really dug it. There are times in which I kind of struggled to sort of keep up with what was going on visually in some of the more chaotic scenes. Very similar to Spider-Man Across the Universe. I'm not entirely sure why, to be honest with you, but I just really, really liked. I really thought that the animation in this movie was beautiful. It was different. It felt fresh. It felt new. At the same time, it had that kind of nostalgic vibe to it. Like, the entire movie has this nostalgic vibe, like, from 90s animated shows. And I had this kind of 90s feel coming from this film that gave me this kind of warm and fuzzy feeling, which I really appreciated. But yeah, I thought the animation was beautiful. The vocal performances, very, very good. I really liked the character design overall within the movie, and the score as well, I thought was fantastic. I really dug the score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. I'm a big fan of them as composers and just artists. And I just think, again, the music had this kind of retro feel to it. I just really, really dug it. So there's a lot of aspects to this movie, whether it be the score, the vocal performances, and just that visual style that I just really, really liked. But there are a couple of things that just didn't quite work for me when it comes to this film. And, one of those being sort of like this attempt at injecting heart into the story. Like, the story does have a beating heart, but it never really amounts to anything. It really lacks any sort of punch. And that kind of really sums up my overall experience, to be honest with you, of this film. I felt like the entire experience was very one note and just very flat. Like, I appreciated what I was seeing on the screen in regards to sort of the animation style, which I thought was beautiful, the score, which I really dug, and the vocal performances. But just when it comes to that overall experience, when you're on this journey with these characters, I just found it to be a very flat and kind of dull experience, which is a really weird one, because, there is a lot that I liked, but I just feel like the way in which the story comes together and sort of how the story progresses, it just didn't quite work for me. And it's the same with the humour. The humour for me, a lot of the time, just fell flat. Like, you've got Seth Rogen attached to this movie. He's co-writing this movie. And so I was a little bit surprised that the humour just didn't quite work for me. And I felt like they were playing it a little bit too safe, perhaps. Like, they could have been, or I was expecting it to be a little bit more riskier with, Seth Rogen attached to this movie, but I just felt like they played it a little bit too safe. But I also understand you've got to cater for that younger audience as well, to bring those new fans in to watch and consume, this world, these characters, these stories. So I completely understand that. And the humour did work for the younger audience that was in my screening. And there were quite a few kids that really laughed out loud and chuckled with some of the moments. And so, yeah, just because the humour didn't work for me doesn't mean it's going to work for anyone else. But I just felt like the film could have just been perhaps a little bit riskier. And from what I can actually remember of the character Splinter, there was certain things that I liked what they did with the character, but there was a lot that I also didn't like what they did with the character. They changed the character in one aspect quite a bit. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I want to keep this spoiler free, but I wasn't particularly a fan of what they did with Splinter in this movie, and that's just based on my memory and nostalgia of that character from the material that I used to watch in the late 80s, early 90s. But when it just comes to the actual design of the characters and just the look of the film, I really, really liked it. There's a lot that I did appreciate when it comes to this film. The score, the animation. Unfortunately, it just didn't quite work for me. I liked the film. I didn't hate this, but I didn't love it either. But I liked it. It's a pleasant experience. It's the only way I can sort of describe it for me personally. But unfortunately, it was very just one note and just flat throughout. And I just liked what they were trying to do with the story as well. But again, it doesn't really amount to anything, you know. And again, when it comes to this story, these characters' journeys, the elements are there, but it doesn't quite take off, and so it lacks any real punch. The heart is there, it's beating, but it's very weak and it's very slow, and so yeah, there's a lot that I liked with Mutant Mayhem. It's a pleasant experience. I liked it. I didn't hate it. I do recommend it. But there's just a lot that didn't quite work for me. And, you know, there's a lot of really great animated movies that have come out this year. You've got Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which was a pleasant surprise, which actually it was a lot riskier when it came to its humour. And you've got Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which have all got these different sort of animated, kind of similar, but also very different and new sort of styles of animation that I just really liked and appreciated. But I felt like they had much more of an impact on me, and they left more of an impact on me. Whereas Mutant Mayhem has a lot of those elements within it that made those other movies work, but just failed to work for me, unfortunately. But it's a pleasant experience, and I think it's one that a lot of people are going to like a lot more than me, even. So yeah. They are my thoughts on Mutant Mayhem, and I will be giving it a 6.5 out of 10. So yeah, what did you guys think of Mutant Mayhem? Please let me know in the comments below. Did you agree with me or disagree with me? Did you love the film? Did you hate it? Which one is your favourite? Please let me know in the comments below, and let's get a discussion going. And if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. If you want to see future reviews from just some random Welsh geek in Wales ramble on, then please hit the subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. My next review will be for Meg 2. Now, I did start watching the first movie, Meg, a few months ago, and I fell asleep halfway through. It might not even been halfway through. What I did watch, I remember not particularly liking. But I'm going to revisit it again over the next couple of nights before watching the Meg 2. And so yeah, that'll be my next review anyway. So yeah, thanks for watching. I really, really appreciate it, and I'll be catching you guys soon.